The galaxy had forgotten its own beginning. For over 100,000 years, every school, academy, and archive across known space taught the same version of history. Long before the rise of the modern civilizations, an impossibly advanced race known only as the first ones had shaped the stars. They built gateways between galaxies, engineered suns, and left behind technologies that even the greatest scientific minds could barely understand. Then, without warning, they vanished. No bodies were ever found. No homeworld was ever discovered. Only ruins remained. Entire religions were built around them. Governments spent fortunes searching for their lost cities. Explorers crossed dangerous sectors hoping to uncover another fragment of their forgotten empire. But after thousands of years of failure, most civilizations accepted one conclusion. The first ones were gone forever. On the opposite edge of the Milky Way, deep inside the territory of the Galactic Council, the massive research station Helios Prime drifted silently around a dying blue star. Thousands of scientists from more than 60 species worked there every day, studying ancient relics recovered from forgotten worlds. It was considered the greatest archaeological center in the galaxy. Without warning, every light inside the station flickered. Monitors flashed red. A low-frequency vibration echoed through every corridor. Scientists looked around in confusion. What just happened? Before anyone could answer, every ancient artifact stored inside the station began glowing. Pieces of metal that had remained inactive for thousands of years suddenly came alive. Strange symbols illuminated across their surfaces. One researcher stepped backward. Impossible! Then every screen inside the station displayed the same message. Unknown signal detected. Origin, unknown. Age, estimated 108,742 years. Silence filled the command center. Someone whispered, "That's older than every known civilization." Within minutes, emergency alerts spread across the Galactic Council. Military fleets stopped their patrols. Research stations redirected every sensor. Deep space observatories locked onto the mysterious transmission. No one had ever seen anything like it. The signal wasn't simply traveling through space. It seemed to ignore distance completely. It appeared everywhere at exactly the same moment. Entire galaxies could hear it. Supreme Chancellor Vierex stared at the holographic projection inside the council chamber. "Have we decoded anything?" The chief scientist lowered his head. "No, Chancellor. What language is it? We don't know. Can the quantum translators read it? They've all failed. Artificial intelligence? No response. Pattern recognition? Nothing." The Chancellor frowned. "Nothing?" The scientist swallowed. "It is as if the signal wasn't designed for us." The room became silent. Across the galaxy, panic slowly replaced curiosity. Some believed it was the return of the first ones. Others believed it was an ancient weapon awakening. Religious leaders declared the end of history. Stock markets collapsed. Border fleets entered full combat readiness. Nobody knew what would happen next. Far away, on a small blue planet called Earth, life continued as usual. Cars filled the streets. Children walked to school. Airliners crossed peaceful skies. Most humans had never even met an alien. Although humanity had joined the Galactic Council only 43 years earlier, they were still considered one of the youngest civilizations in known space. Most alien races viewed humans as creative, stubborn, and surprisingly adaptable, but technologically average. Nobody feared them. Nobody worshipped them. They were simply another member of the galaxy. At the International Deep Space Observatory in the Atacama Desert, Dr. Ethan Carter leaned over his workstation after nearly 20 hours without sleep. The astrophysicist specialized in ancient electromagnetic anomalies. His colleagues often joked that he spent more time talking to dead civilizations than living people. As he prepared to shut down his equipment, every monitor suddenly froze. A soft tone echoed through the laboratory. Ethan frowned. "What now?" His assistant looked at another screen. "Sir." The signal had arrived. Unlike every alien laboratory across the galaxy, Ethan's computer didn't reject it. Instead, The encrypted symbols began rearranging themselves. Line after line, character after character. The impossible language transformed into perfect English. Ethan's heart nearly stopped. No! His assistant stared at the screen. How is that possible? The translation completed itself. No supercomputer, no AI, no decoding process. Simply recognized them. The first sentence appeared. Identity confirmed. The room became completely silent. Another line slowly appeared beneath it. Genetic match verified. Ethan's breathing became shallow. What does that mean? Then the final sentence appeared. Large, bright, impossible. Welcome back, Creator. Neither Ethan nor his assistant spoke for several seconds. Finally, the assistant whispered, "Someone is playing a joke." Ethan shook his head. No. He checked every system, every security protocol, every satellite, every quantum communication relay. Nothing had been hacked. Nothing had been altered. The message was real. Only 3 minutes later, military vehicles surrounded the observatory. Government agents entered the building. The laboratory was immediately sealed. Every computer was confiscated. Every employee signed emergency secrecy orders. Within an hour, the President of Earth received a classified report. The first page contained only one sentence. An ancient signal older than 100,000 years has identified humanity as its creator. No one in the room knew what that meant. But every instinct told them one thing. History had just changed. Meanwhile, billions of light-years away, hidden inside a region of space that no civilization had ever mapped, an enormous structure slowly awakened. It dwarfed entire planets. Its surface was covered in ancient symbols that glowed like rivers of gold. For 100,000 years, it had remained silent, waiting, watching. The central core finally activated. A calm synthetic voice echoed through the darkness. Creator genome confirmed. Ancient command protocols restored. Priority Alpha initiated. Preparing welcome sequence. Across the surrounding star systems, thousands, then millions, then billions, of dormant machines opened their eyes. The galaxy believed the first ones had disappeared forever. They were wrong. They had never been waiting for an empire. They had never been waiting for a conqueror. They had only been waiting for humanity to come home. Earth had never experienced silence quite like this. For 48 hours after the impossible transmission, every major government, military command, and scientific institution operated under the highest level of secrecy ever recorded in human history. Commercial satellites were quietly redirected, observatories were locked down, and thousands of researchers were ordered to leave their projects without explanation. Only a handful of people knew the truth. An ancient signal older than every known civilization had recognized humanity, not as explorers, not as descendants, but as creators. Inside the United Earth Security Council bunker beneath Geneva, the world's political leaders sat around a circular table. The atmosphere was heavy with uncertainty. Massive holographic displays hovered above them, replaying the translated message over and over. Identity confirmed. Genetic match verified. Welcome back, Creator. President Elena Torres finally broke the silence. So either someone has created the most sophisticated deception in history, or everything we know about ourselves is wrong. No one argued. Dr. Ethan Carter stood at the center of the room, exhausted after 2 sleepless nights. "We've tested the transmission thousands of times," he explained. "The quantum signature cannot be forged. Every alien research station received an undecipherable signal. Earth received a welcome message." A general folded his arms. "Why us?" Ethan hesitated. "I don't know." The room fell silent again. Then every screen flashed red. Incoming galactic priority transmission. Millions of kilometers above Earth. Hundreds of hyperspace portals erupted into existence. One after another. Then dozens. Then hundreds more. The peaceful darkness surrounding Earth transformed into a sea of shimmering blue light. Human defense satellites detected an impossible number of incoming vessels. The operators froze. "Sir, how many?" The young officer swallowed. I've lost count. Within minutes, more than 12,000 alien ships had arrived at the edge of the solar system. Some belonged to the Galactic Council. Others carried the colors of independent empires. Several belonged to governments humanity had never even heard of. For the first time since joining the interstellar community, Earth found itself at the center of the galaxy's attention. Inside the flagship of the Galactic Council, Supreme Chancellor Vierek watched Earth rotate beneath him. He had governed the Council for nearly 60 years and had negotiated peace between civilizations that had hated one another for centuries. But nothing in his long career had prepared him for this moment. He turned toward Admiral Saris. Any hostile movements? No, Chancellor. The independent fleets? They're waiting. And the human response? They've activated planetary defenses. But they haven't fired. Vierek nodded slowly. Good. He wasn't afraid of humanity. Not yet. But he feared what the ancient signal might reveal. On Earth, panic spread faster than official announcements could contain. Social media exploded with blurry images of alien fleets filling the skies. News channels interrupted every broadcast. Markets closed. Schools dismissed students early. Families gathered around televisions, wondering if humanity's first galactic war had begun. No government could explain why hundreds of alien warships had suddenly appeared above their homeworld. Meanwhile, aboard the Council flagship, an emergency summit began. Representatives from more than 80 civilizations argued loudly across the enormous chamber. They're hiding something. The humans activated the signal. They've discovered a first one weapon. Earth must be searched immediately. An elderly historian stood and struck the floor with his ceremonial staff. You are all asking the wrong question. The room quieted. If humanity truly created the first one's language. He paused. Then perhaps humanity isn't merely another species. A chill swept across the chamber. No one wanted to finish that thought. Back on Earth, Ethan Carter continued analyzing the transmission. Something still bothered him. The signal wasn't repeating randomly. Pulsed every 93 seconds. Exactly. Without variation. Almost like a heartbeat. He isolated the pulses and projected them into a three-dimensional model. His assistant gasped. Their coordinates. Ethan zoomed in. Thousands of tiny points connected together, forming an enormous stellar map. The destination lay far beyond known council space. A region officially labeled unexplored, but hidden within the map was something even stranger. A countdown. 71 hours, 59 minutes, and 43 seconds. It was decreasing. What happens when it reaches zero? His assistant whispered. Ethan didn't answer. He didn't know. Within the hour, Earth's leaders made a decision. A joint expedition would be launched immediately. If the coordinates truly pointed toward something left behind by the mysterious first ones, humanity could not allow another civilization to reach it first. The mission would include scientists, engineers, diplomats, and a small military escort. Officially, it was an exploration mission. Unofficially, it was a race against the entire galaxy. The announcement did not remain secret for long. Galactic intelligence agencies intercepted fragments of encrypted human communications. Within minutes, every major empire learned the same thing. The humans had found something. Suddenly, dozens of governments abandoned diplomacy. Their fleets accelerated toward the unknown coordinates. Some hoped to uncover ancient technology. Others feared humanity would awaken a forgotten superweapon. A few simply refused to let the youngest civilization in the galaxy become the most powerful overnight. The race had begun. 3 days later, Earth's exploration cruiser UES Horizon departed from lunar orbit. It was humanity's fastest deep space vessel, equipped with experimental quantum drives and carrying the brightest scientific minds on the planet. Standing on the bridge, Captain Maya Reynolds looked at the crew. This mission may change history. No one smiled. Every person aboard understood the risks. Behind them, at a safe distance, several Galactic Council escorts followed. Farther back, hidden in deep space, unknown ships silently tracked their course. Friends and enemies alike were watching. After 6 hyperspace jumps, the horizon entered a region unlike anything recorded in human databases. Stars were strangely dim. Navigation systems malfunctioned. Long-range communications disappeared. Even the quantum drive struggled to remain stable. The ship's AI spoke in an unusually calm voice. "Captain, I am detecting artificial gravitational distortions. Natural? No. Origin? Unknown." Moments later, every alarm on the bridge activated. The stars ahead vanished. Not because they had disappeared, because something unimaginably massive blocked them from view. At first, the crew believed they were looking at a planet. Then the sensors completed their scan. Dr. Ethan Carter stared at the results, unable to breathe. "It can't be." Captain Reynolds looked at him. "What is it?" Ethan slowly turned toward the bridge crew. "That's not a planet." A stunned silence filled the room. "It's an artificial world." Before anyone could react, the ancient signal echoed through the ship one final time. This time, it was no longer a simple message. It was a command. "Access granted. Welcome home." As the words faded, the impossible world began to awaken. Golden lights spread across its surface like rivers of fire. Entire mountain ranges shifted. Gigantic metallic structures rose from beneath the crust. And somewhere deep inside the sleeping megastructure, an ancient intelligence opened its eyes for the first time in over 100,000 years. It had sensed what it had waited an eternity to find. Humanity had finally returned. The bridge of the UES horizon fell into complete silence. No one spoke. No one even breathed. The artificial world hanging before them was unlike anything humanity, or the Galactic Council, had ever recorded. It was larger than Jupiter, yet every sensor insisted it wasn't a natural planet. Beneath a thin crust of rock lay an impossibly complex shell of alloys unknown to modern science. Captain Maya Reynolds stared at the tactical display. "Status report." Lieutenant Harris swallowed hard. "Power signatures are increasing across the entire structure. I'm counting thousands, no, millions of active systems." Dr. Ethan Carter leaned closer to the holographic scan. "They aren't activating randomly." "What do you mean?" "They're waking up in sequence." A wave of golden light swept across the artificial world, racing over continents and oceans with mathematical precision. Entire mountain ranges split apart, revealing colossal metallic towers that stretched hundreds of kilometers into space. The ship's AI suddenly froze. Its calm synthetic voice returned. "Warning. Unknown intelligence attempting communication." Before anyone could respond, every screen aboard the horizon turned white. Instead of alarms, music filled the ship. Soft, beautiful, ancient. It echoed through every corridor like a forgotten memory. Crew members stopped where they stood, overcome by a strange feeling they couldn't explain. Some felt peace. Others felt overwhelming nostalgia. One engineer quietly whispered, "I've never heard this melody before. So why does it feel familiar?" No one had an answer. Outside the horizon, the impossible planet continued transforming. Gigantic circular gates emerged from beneath oceans. Floating cities rose into the sky. Countless satellites awakened from hidden chambers beneath the crust and silently formed perfect defensive formations. Every movement was elegant, purposeful. Not a single action appeared hostile. It was as if the world itself had been waiting for one specific visitor. Far behind the horizon, the fleets of the Galactic Council finally arrived. The moment Chancellor Vierek saw the artificial world, every certainty he had held throughout his life collapsed. His chief scientist stared in disbelief. "Our oldest estimates claimed the first ones built structures around the size of moons." He pointed toward the scanner. "This world is over 300 times larger." An admiral whispered, "No civilization could build this." The historian standing beside him quietly replied, "Unless they weren't a civilization." But the civilization. Suddenly, a transmission reached every ship in the system. Not through radio, not through quantum communication. It appeared directly inside every computer. The same sentence repeated in every known language. Authorized personnel only. Every alien vessel attempting to approach the planet was immediately surrounded by invisible gravitational barriers. Weapons refused to lock. Engines lost power. Navigation systems shut down. Panic spread across the combined fleets. They're disabling us. Our reactors are offline. We've lost steering. Yet, the Horizon continued moving forward without resistance. Its engines functioned perfectly. Its navigation remained untouched. The invisible barrier simply opened, like a door. Inside the Council flagship, silence filled the command bridge. Virek finally understood. It isn't protecting itself from humanity. He looked toward Earth's ship. It's protecting humanity from us. The Horizon slowly descended through an enormous opening in the planet's surface. The entrance alone was wider than Earth's moon. Golden lights illuminated a tunnel that stretched deep into the artificial world's interior. Massive structures lined both sides. Ships, factories, and machines so enormous they defied imagination. Dr. Carter stared through the observation window. Those aren't buildings. They're shipyards. Captain Reynolds frowned. For what kind of ships? Ethan didn't answer. One incomplete vessel alone measured nearly 5,000 kilometers long. It was larger than some dwarf planets. Humanity had never imagined engineering on such a scale. As the Horizon landed inside an immense circular chamber, the crew stepped cautiously onto polished black metal that looked brand new despite being over 100,000 years old. There was no dust, no decay, no signs of abandonment. It was as though the builders had left only yesterday. Then, footsteps echoed through the chamber. Not human, not alien, mechanical. From the darkness emerged hundreds of elegant humanoid machines. Their white metallic bodies glowed with soft blue energy. Each one stopped exactly 20 meters from the crew. Then, in perfect synchronization, they knelt. Every single machine lowered its head. The chamber echoed with one unified voice. Welcome home, creators. The human soldiers instinctively raised their weapons. Captain Reynolds immediately lowered her hand. No, they're not threatening us. One of the machines slowly stood. Its face was smooth and expressionless, but its voice carried unmistakable emotion. I am Custodian Unit Prime. I have maintained Sanctuary World 7 for 108,743 standard years. It looked directly at Ethan. We feared you would never return. Ethan stepped forward carefully. Who built this place? The machine tilted its head. You did. The words struck everyone like a physical blow. Captain Reynolds stared in disbelief. That's impossible. The AI calmly replied, Our historical archives confirm a 99.999999% genetic match. You are humanity. You are the founders. You are the creators. Before anyone could ask another question, the floor beneath them transformed into a gigantic holographic map of the galaxy. Thousands of stars appeared, then millions. One by one, countless worlds illuminated. Every inhabited planet in the modern galaxy glowed blue. Then thin golden lines connected them all, leading back to one point, Earth. Not the modern Earth. An Earth shown over 100,000 years in the past. The AI spoke quietly. From this world, the great expansion began. The crew exchanged stunned glances. Everything they had believed about history was collapsing before their eyes. Meanwhile, outside the artificial world, tensions reached a breaking point. Several rival empires refused to wait. Ignoring council orders, they attempted to force their way through the defensive barrier. Hundreds of warships opened fire simultaneously. Brilliant beams of plasma, antimatter missiles, and particle lances struck the invisible shield. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the barrier responded. Without firing a single weapon, every hostile projectile simply disappeared, erased, as if they had never existed. The attacking fleets lost power instantly. Every ship drifted helplessly through space. Not one crew member was harmed. It was a demonstration, not of aggression, but of absolute superiority. The Galactic Council watched in horrified silence. If this ancient world had wanted war, no modern civilization could have stopped it. Back inside the chamber, Custodian Prime turned toward the human delegation. There is much you have forgotten. Our records contain the complete history of humanity. The truth of why your people disappeared. The reason your memory was erased. And the enemy your ancestors sacrificed everything to defeat. The AI paused. For the first time, its calm voice carried unmistakable urgency. But there is little time. The beacon has awakened more than your inheritance. It has awakened the Watchers. Every light inside the chamber suddenly shifted from blue to crimson red. Across the artificial world, ancient defense systems roared to life. Deep in the darkness beyond the edge of the galaxy, something vast had begun to move. For the first time in 100,000 years, the ancient enemy knew exactly where humanity was. Red warning lights flooded the colossal chamber. The calm atmosphere vanished instantly. Massive doors sealed shut with thunderous force, while thousands of ancient defense platforms emerged from beneath the metallic floor. Deep within the artificial world, engines that had slept for over 100,000 years rumbled back to life. The human delegation instinctively reached for their weapons. Custodian Prime raised a metallic hand. There is no danger. Yet. Captain Maya Reynolds narrowed her eyes. Then why activate your defenses? The AI looked toward the enormous ceiling. Because they have heard the beacon. They know the creators have returned. Ethan Carter stepped closer. You keep calling us creators. If that's true, then tell us everything. For a brief moment, Custodian Prime remained silent. Then the chamber transformed. The walls disappeared, replaced by a living hologram so realistic that the humans felt as though they had stepped into another era. The stars themselves changed. These events occurred 112,000 years ago. The AI began. This is your history. The hologram revealed an ancient Earth. But it was not the primitive world the crew expected. Towering cities floated above oceans. Gigantic orbital rings encircled the planet. Countless starships departed every minute through brilliant gateways stretching across the solar system. Humanity had become something unimaginable. Not conquerors, builders, explorers, scientists, artists. Their technology manipulated gravity, folded space, and even ignited newborn stars. Captain Reynolds whispered, "This can't be Earth." Custodian Prime answered calmly, "It is Earth." At the height of the first expansion, the hologram accelerated through centuries. Human fleets reached neighboring systems. Instead of invading, they transformed lifeless planets into thriving worlds. They terraformed deserts, created oceans, stabilized dying suns. They searched not for empires, but for life. Whenever they discovered a young, intelligent species, humanity observed them patiently, never interfering, never ruling, only waiting until they were ready. Then they shared knowledge, medicine, energy, agriculture, spaceflight. Entire civilizations rose because humanity chose to help them. The chamber fell silent. Every species currently living in the galaxy owed its survival to those forgotten humans. Ethan could barely breathe. We created them. Custodian Prime nodded. You called them your children. The hologram shifted again. Thousands of alien species gathered around human diplomats. No chains, no slaves, no conquered worlds. Instead, humans taught each civilization to govern itself. They believed diversity made the galaxy stronger. Every race retained its culture, its language, its traditions. Humanity never demanded worship, only cooperation. For nearly 20,000 years, peace endured. It became known as the Golden Age. Then everything changed. The stars began disappearing. Entire systems fell silent overnight. Exploration fleets vanished without sending distress calls. Colonies simply stopped existing. At first, humanity suspected natural disasters. Then one damaged scout finally returned. His hull was torn apart. His crew was dead. Only a single recording survived. The hologram displayed impossible creatures drifting through deep space. They possessed no recognizable ships, no machines, no cities. They moved like living shadows, larger than moons, consuming everything in their path. Stars dimmed wherever they traveled. Planets became lifeless stone. The recording ended with one desperate sentence. "They're not invading. They're feeding." A chill spread through the chamber. Captain Reynolds looked at the AI. "The Watchers." Custodian Prime lowered its head. "Yes, they existed long before humanity reached the stars. They sleep between galaxies. They awaken whenever civilizations become advanced enough to attract their attention." The hologram showed humanity preparing for war. Not for conquest, for survival. Shipyards larger than planets began constructing fleets unlike anything the modern galaxy had ever imagined. Entire stars were converted into energy reservoirs. Artificial worlds, like Sanctuary 7, were built across the galaxy. Millions of autonomous guardians were created, not to rule forever, but to protect life if humanity failed. Then came the Great War. The hologram became a storm of fire. Human fleets fought across thousands of star systems simultaneously. Stars exploded. Nebulas burned. Entire galaxies trembled beneath weapons capable of bending space itself. Yet no matter how many Watchers humanity destroyed, more emerged from the darkness. For every victory, the enemy returned stronger. Ethan stared in horror. "So, we lost." Custodian Prime looked at him. "No. You refused to surrender." The hologram slowed. Human scientists gathered around an enormous device unlike anything else in existence. It wasn't a weapon. It was a memory engine. Their greatest invention. Its purpose wasn't destruction. It was sacrifice. The High Council reached one final conclusion, Custodian Prime explained. The Watchers were not hunting your worlds. They were hunting you. Every member of the expedition froze. The Watchers had evolved to detect the unique quantum signature of humanity. As long as humanity remained visible, the galaxy would never be safe. Captain Reynolds whispered, "So what did our ancestors do?" The hologram answered, "Human fleets withdrew from every colony, every archive, every city, every record, every monument. Every piece of technology identifying humanity as the founders was systematically erased. Billions of humans volunteered for the final mission. Many entered cryogenic sanctuaries. Others remained behind to operate the beacon network. A select few stayed on Earth, their memories deliberately erased. Generation after generation would forget who they truly were. Humanity chose to become ordinary, because only by disappearing could the rest of the galaxy survive. Silence consumed the chamber. No one moved. No one spoke. Ethan's eyes filled with disbelief. "We erased ourselves." Custodian Prime nodded slowly. "Your ancestors believed no sacrifice was too great if it meant protecting every civilization they had nurtured." The AI extended a hand toward the humans. "You did not abandon the galaxy. You gave it a future." Before anyone could respond, alarms erupted once again. This time they were louder, more urgent. Across the holographic galaxy, dozens of red lights appeared beyond the outer rim. Then hundreds, then thousands. Captain Reynolds looked at the tactical display. "What are those?" Custodian Prime's normally calm voice became heavy. "Long-range sensors have confirmed multiple hyperspace ruptures. The Watchers are entering the galaxy." The AI turned toward Ethan. "They have found you. And this time, they will not stop until every last human is gone." At that exact moment, the stars outside Sanctuary World 7 began to distort. Across the darkness, enormous shadows emerged from hyperspace. Vast, silent, and unimaginably ancient. The war that humanity believed had ended over 100,000 years ago was about to begin again. No one aboard Sanctuary World 7 spoke. The tactical display hovering above the command chamber showed hundreds of crimson markers blinking at the edge of the galaxy. Every second, more appeared. Captain Maya Reynolds stared at the projection. Can you identify them? Custodian Prime answered immediately. Confirmed. Primary threat designation. The Watchers. Estimated arrival time. The AI paused for the first time since the humans had met it. 36 hours. A heavy silence settled over the chamber. Only 36 hours separated the galaxy from the greatest war in its history. The Council seized the truth. Outside Sanctuary World 7, the combined fleets of the Galactic Council maintained a cautious orbit. Supreme Chancellor Viarek watched the sensor feeds in disbelief. At first, he thought his scanners were malfunctioning. The approaching objects didn't resemble ships. They looked like tears in reality itself. Space bent around them, swallowing starlight. Entire constellations disappeared behind their shadows. Admiral Saris quietly whispered, "I've never seen anything like this. Neither had anyone else." The Council's long-range telescopes magnified one of the approaching entities. Every officer on the bridge fell silent. The creature was larger than a moon. Its surface shifted constantly, as though it were made from living darkness. Massive crystalline structures rotated beneath layers of black energy, while thousands of glowing crimson eyes opened and closed across its body. It had no engines, no visible weapons. Yet wherever it passed, gravity itself twisted. One scientist muttered, "That's not a battleship. It's alive." The ancient recording. Back inside Sanctuary World 7, Custodian Prime guided the humans into another chamber. Unlike the enormous halls they had already explored, this room was surprisingly simple. At its center stood a single crystal pillar. This contains the final message of the last Creator Council. Prime gently touched the crystal. The room faded away. A holographic recording appeared. 7 humans stood together in white ceremonial uniforms. They looked ordinary. No glowing armor. No supernatural powers. Just calm, determined faces. The oldest among them stepped forward. "If this message has been activated, then humanity has returned." He smiled sadly. "Hello. My name is Adrian Solis. I was the final High Chancellor of the Human Commonwealth." Ethan felt a strange lump in his throat. He was looking at someone who had lived over 100,000 years ago. Yet Adrian spoke as naturally as if they were in the same room. "Humanity's final choice. We failed to destroy the Watchers," Adrian continued. "We discovered something far more terrifying." The holographic galaxy appeared beside him. "The Watchers cannot truly die." Every person present exchanged uneasy glances. Adrian pointed toward the stars. "They exist partly outside our universe. Every physical body we destroy is only a fragment. They always return." Captain Reynolds whispered, "So victory was impossible." Custodian Prime nodded. "Not impossible. Temporary." Adrian continued speaking. "So we made one final decision. We would not save ourselves. We would save everyone else." The hologram zoomed toward Earth. "We erased our identity. We dismantled our empire. We scattered our descendants. We left only enough technology for future humanity to rebuild naturally. No civilization would remember who created them. No archive would reveal our existence. We became a myth." The recording ended with one final sentence. "When humanity remembers who it is, the Watchers will return." The hologram disappeared. No one in the room said a word. The impossible signal, the ancient beacon, everything suddenly made sense. Humanity hadn't accidentally awakened the enemy. They had fulfilled a contingency plan created by their own ancestors. The galaxy panics. News spread rapidly through the combined fleets. Despite every attempt at secrecy, sensor recordings leaked across the galactic network. Within hours, billions of civilians watched footage of the approaching Watchers. Markets collapsed. Entire colonies declared planetary emergencies. Religious leaders claimed the end of civilization had arrived. Several smaller governments surrendered before a single battle had even begun. Others blamed humanity. If humans had never activated the beacon, this wouldn't be happening. Fear spread faster than facts. an unexpected decision. Inside the council chamber, fierce arguments erupted. We should abandon humanity. They brought this disaster. We cannot fight those things. Chancellor Vierek remained silent until every delegate finished shouting. Then he slowly stood. For 40,000 years, we believed the first ones abandoned us. He looked around the room. They didn't. They sacrificed everything so that we could exist. No one interrupted. If humanity truly erased itself to protect us, then abandoning them now would dishonor every civilization in this chamber. One by one, delegates lowered their heads. The vote began. Support humanity? One light after another turned green. Not all, but enough. For the first time in galactic history, more than 80 civilizations agreed to fight side by side. Sanctuary 7 responds. Deep beneath the artificial world's surface, enormous reactors activated. Ancient systems that had slept for millennia began responding to Custodian Prime's commands. The AI turned toward Ethan. There is one final protocol. What protocol? The Legacy Protocol. Prime extended a metallic hand. Creator authorization required. Ethan hesitated. I'm just a scientist. Prime's blue eyes brightened. No, you are humanity. That is enough. Slowly, Ethan placed his hand against the AI's. The chamber shook violently. A brilliant golden pulse erupted from the center of Sanctuary 7. It spread across the artificial world, then raced into deep space faster than light. Every ancient beacon hidden across the galaxy answered. One after another, then hundreds, then thousands, then millions. The sleeping fleet, far beyond the territories of every known civilization, hidden inside rogue planets, buried beneath dead moons, floating within the hearts of forgotten nebulae, something awakened. Gigantic doors that had remained sealed for over 100,000 years slowly opened. Colossal shipyards illuminated. Ancient reactors roared back to life. Autonomous factories began assembling impossible weapons. Across the galaxy, dormant vessels activated simultaneously. Not hundreds, not thousands, millions. The galaxy had believed Sanctuary World 7 was merely an archive. It wasn't. It was the command center of the greatest defensive network ever created. The first transmission. Every military vessel in the galaxy suddenly received the same message. No encryption. No interference. A calm female voice echoed across every bridge. This is the Creator Defense Network. Legacy Protocol acknowledged. Supreme Command Authority restored. Welcome back, humanity. Then came the final line. One that sent chills through every living being who heard it. The fleet is awaiting your orders. As millions of ancient warships emerged from the darkness of forgotten space, every admiral in the galaxy realized the same terrifying truth. Humanity had never truly lost its empire. It had simply hidden it. And now, after 100,000 years of silence, the greatest fleet ever built was coming home. The golden pulse from Sanctuary World 7 raced across the galaxy faster than any known form of communication. For over 100,000 years, countless hidden facilities had remained silent, waiting for a single command. Now that command had finally arrived. Legacy Protocol activated. Every dormant system responded. The impossible awakening. Deep beneath the frozen crust of a forgotten moon, ancient hangar doors began to move. They had not opened since before recorded history. Kilometers of solid ice cracked apart as colossal engines ignited beneath the surface. A ship slowly emerged into space. Then another, and another. Each vessel was larger than an entire modern battle fleet. Elsewhere, inside a dead star hidden within a dense nebula, a massive Dyson shell unlocked itself. Gigantic manufacturing platforms activated, assembling warships that modern civilizations could not have imagined. Across thousands of secret locations, the same scene repeated. The galaxy had searched for the first one's fleet for thousands of years. No one had realized they had been hiding in plain sight. The Council watches in disbelief. On the bridge of the Galactic Council flagship, alarms sounded continuously. Officer after officer called out impossible readings. Unknown hyperspace signatures detected. New contacts appearing across every sector. Admiral Saris looked at the tactical map. His face turned pale. The display filled with blue markers until there was no empty space left. How many ships? The sensor officer swallowed. Our systems have stopped counting. Estimate. More than 8 million. Silence filled the bridge. No civilization in history had ever assembled a fleet of even 100,000 ships. Humanity had hidden millions. The Legacy Fleet. A transmission from Sanctuary World 7 reached every Allied commander. Custodian Prime appeared as a hologram. These vessels are not designed for conquest. They were built for one purpose: the defense of all intelligent life. The hologram shifted, revealing several classes of ancient warships. Guardian-class dreadnoughts, planet-sized command ships carrying entire defense fleets. Aegis-class Titans, massive fortress ships equipped with shields capable of protecting whole star systems. Sentinel carriers, mobile shipyards capable of constructing new fleets during battle. Spear-class interceptors, autonomous strike craft that moved faster than modern hyperspace drives. Every design was centuries beyond anything the Galactic Council possessed. Humanity takes command. Back on Sanctuary World 7, Ethan Carter stood before an enormous holographic command table. Millions of blue icons stretched across the galaxy. Captain Maya Reynolds stared in disbelief. They're all waiting. Custodian Prime nodded. For their creators. Ethan stepped back. I can't command an army like this. Prime calmly replied, You are not expected to command alone. The floor beneath them began to glow. Suddenly, dozens of holographic figures appeared around the command table. Ancient military AIs. Each one represented a different fleet. They saluted Ethan simultaneously, awaiting operational directives. Ethan looked overwhelmed. Captain Reynolds placed a hand on his shoulder. We don't have to fight this war alone. Humanity's message. President Elena Torres requested a galaxy-wide broadcast. Every inhabited world received the transmission. She stood behind a simple podium with the Earth floating behind her. My name is Elena Torres. I speak today on behalf of humanity. She paused. For thousands of years, we lived beside you without knowing who we truly were. Our ancestors hid the truth to protect every civilization in this galaxy. They never asked for gratitude. They asked only that life should continue. She looked directly into the camera. Today, that life is threatened once again. We will not abandon you. We will stand with every world. Not as rulers, not as gods, but as allies. The speech spread through the galaxy within minutes. Across countless worlds, fear slowly gave way to hope. The Watchers advance. Hope did not slow the enemy. Beyond the galactic rim, reality itself fractured. Thousands of Watchers entered known space. Where they passed, stars dimmed. Entire asteroid belts crumbled into dust. Scout fleets sent to observe them simply vanished. No wreckage, no distress calls, only silence. The ancient enemy moved with terrifying certainty. Its destination was unmistakable. Earth, the first engagement. To delay the invasion, the Galactic Council deployed 300 modern warships near the border. The commanders knew they were outmatched. Their mission was simple. By time, as the Watchers approached, the Council fleet opened fire. Plasma beams, antimatter torpedoes, and graviton lances lit up the darkness. The explosions were spectacular. When the light faded, the Watchers were untouched. One massive creature drifted forward and released a wave of black energy. Entire cruisers disappeared instantly. Not destroyed, erased. Within 2 minutes, the Council fleet ceased to exist. No survivors. The battle recordings reached Sanctuary World 7. No one spoke. Captain Reynolds quietly whispered, If that's only their scouting force, what does the main fleet look like? Custodian Prime answered in a calm voice. You will soon find out. The Creator Armada arrives. At that exact moment, hyperspace tore open above Sanctuary World 7. Then again, and again. Golden portals stretched across millions of kilometers. Out of them emerged the ancient fleet, guardian dreadnoughts, titan fortresses, sentinel carriers, countless autonomous escorts. The darkness of space became a sea of golden light. Every human aboard the Horizon stared through the observation windows. Even the alien admirals fell silent. No celebration followed. No triumphant music. Only quiet determination. These ships had not awakened for glory. They had awakened because the galaxy needed them one last time. The final warning. Custodian Prime turned toward Ethan. The Legacy fleet is fully assembled. Defense networks are online. Evacuation corridors are prepared. Ethan nodded slowly. So, we're ready. The AI remained silent. Then it answered with a sentence that chilled everyone present. No, we are merely prepared to survive the first wave. At that moment, long-range sensors detected something far beyond the approaching watchers. A single object, larger than a planet, larger than a star. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a creature. It was something far older. Something that had commanded the watchers since the beginning of time. Custodian Prime's voice became unusually quiet. It has awakened. The Void Sovereign has entered the galaxy. For the first time in over 100,000 years, even the ancient AI sounded afraid. Silence spread across the command center of Sanctuary World 7. Every holographic display was focused on a single object drifting beyond the edge of the galaxy. The Void Sovereign. It had no clear shape, no beginning, no end. It looked as though an entire section of space had come alive. Galaxies seemed to bend around its presence, while light itself vanished into the endless darkness surrounding it. For the first time in over 100,000 years, Custodian Prime lowered its head. The commander has arrived. Ethan Carter stared at the impossible image. So, this is what defeated ancient humanity. Prime answered quietly. No, this is what ancient humanity failed to destroy. The fleet moves. Across the galaxy, more than 8 million creator warships received the same order. Defend all civilization. The Legacy fleet divided into thousands of battle groups. Guardian dreadnoughts positioned themselves around populated star systems. Titan fortresses generated shields around entire sectors. Sentinel carriers began launching trillions of autonomous defense drones. Every allied civilization joined the formation. For the first time in history, humans, Carthans, Illyrians, Voss, Neril, and dozens of other races fought under a single unified command. No empire, no politics, only survival. Earth's decision. President Elena Torres addressed humanity one final time. My fellow citizens, our ancestors once sacrificed everything so that life could continue. Today that responsibility belongs to us. Around the world, volunteers filled military bases, hospitals, engineering centers, and evacuation hubs. Scientists worked without sleep. Factories operated day and night. Ordinary people donated supplies, repaired ships, and prepared shelters. Humanity did not panic. Prepared. Across the galaxy, alien news networks watched in amazement. The youngest civilization was acting like the oldest. The first wave. The Watchers attacked. Thousands of living shadows poured into the outer colonies. Stars disappeared behind oceans of darkness. Entire planets shook as gravitational waves swept through their systems. Then, the Legacy fleet opened fire. Golden beams crossed the darkness like rivers of sunlight. Planet-sized rail cannons accelerated relativistic projectiles. Artificial singularities collapsed around enemy formations. The first Watchers exploded into clouds of black crystal. For the first time in 100,000 years, the enemy stopped advancing. Cheers erupted across allied fleets. They had done it. The Watchers could be hurt. A costly victory. The celebration lasted less than a minute. The shattered remains of the destroyed Watchers began moving. Millions of black fragments drifted together. Within seconds, every destroyed Watcher reformed. Not weaker, stronger. Captain Maya Reynolds clenched her fists. They're regenerating. Custodian Prime nodded. As expected, the battlefield changed instantly. Human commanders abandoned offensive tactics. Instead of destroying the Watchers, they focused on containing them and protecting civilian worlds. The goal was no longer victory. It was time. Ethan's discovery. Back aboard Sanctuary World 7, Ethan continued studying the ancient archives. There had to be something humanity had overlooked. Hours passed, then days. Finally, one forgotten file caught his attention. Its security level exceeded every other document. He opened it. The title contained only 3 words: Project Dawnfire. Inside were the personal notes of High Chancellor Adrian Solis. The Watchers regenerate because they remain connected to the Void Sovereign. Destroying the servants is meaningless. The source must be severed. Ethan's eyes widened. He ran toward Custodian Prime. We've been fighting the wrong enemy. The ancient plan. Prime scanned the archive. His eyes brightened. I believed these records had been lost. Ethan pointed toward the holographic battlefield. The Watchers aren't the real threat. The Void Sovereign controls them. Prime nodded slowly. Correct. But no weapon ever reached it. Ethan looked at the massive holographic image of the Sovereign. What if we don't attack it with a weapon? The AI tilted its head. What are you proposing? Ethan smiled for the first time since the journey had begun. Our ancestors erased humanity from history. They hid our identity. They fooled the Watchers once. What if we do it again? Operation Dawnfire. The plan spread through the fleet. It sounded impossible. Humanity would use every surviving beacon, every quantum relay, and every ancient archive to create a galaxy-wide quantum pulse. Not to destroy the Void Sovereign, but to erase humanity's unique quantum signature once more. If successful, the Watchers would lose the only signal they had followed for over 100,000 years. There was only one problem. Someone had to manually activate the central beacon inside Sanctuary World 7. The resulting energy release would destroy the station, and anyone still inside it. The final choice. Silence filled the command chamber. Captain Maya Reynolds looked at Ethan. I'll do it. Ethan shook his head. No. You command the fleet. She smiled. And you're the only scientist who understands the beacon. Neither moved. Finally, Custodian Prime interrupted. There is another option. Every eye turned toward the AI. I was created for this purpose. My final directive is the preservation of humanity. Ethan stared at the machine. You'd sacrifice yourself? Prime answered without hesitation. My existence has always been temporary. My mission was to wait. You have returned. My mission is complete. The end of an age. The Legacy Fleet formed a defensive wall around Sanctuary World 7. Millions of ships held back the endless tide of Watchers. Entire squadrons were lost. Titan fortresses collapsed. Guardian dreadnoughts exploded, protecting civilian worlds. Every second they delayed, the enemy gave Custodian Prime more time. The AI walked alone toward the heart of the ancient station. For the first time, it looked back. Goodbye, creators. The massive beacon ignited. Golden energy surged through every corridor. The station began to tear itself apart. Outside, the Void Sovereign changed course. For the first time, it had sensed genuine danger. But it was already too late. A blinding wave of golden light erupted from Sanctuary World 7 and raced across the entire galaxy. Every beacon answered. Every hidden relay activated. Every trace of humanity's ancient quantum signature dissolved into nothingness. The Watchers froze. One by one, they stopped moving. The Void Sovereign let out a silent scream that echoed through space itself. Then, the endless darkness began to retreat beyond the edge of the galaxy. The war was over, but the price had been immense. Sanctuary World 7 disappeared in a final burst of light. Custodian Prime was gone forever. Only one phase remained. In its aftermath, the galaxy would have to decide whether humanity should once again become a forgotten legend, or finally reclaim its true place among the stars. For several long moments, no one moved. The battlefield, which only seconds earlier had been filled with explosions, dying stars, and endless waves of watchers became eerily quiet. Across thousands of star systems, billions of people stared into the darkness. The watchers were gone. Not destroyed, not defeated forever, but they had lost the one signal they had hunted for more than 100,000 years. Slowly, they disappeared into the vast emptiness beyond the edge of the galaxy. The Void Sovereign lingered for a final moment, its immense silhouette fading into the darkness. It seemed to search for something that no longer existed. Then, it vanished. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy knew peace. The price of victory. The celebration never came. The cost had been far too high. Entire sectors lay in ruins. Hundreds of worlds had been damaged. Thousands of cities floated silently through space after their orbital defenses had failed. Millions of brave men and women, human and alien alike, had given their lives to protect civilizations they had never even visited. Memorial beacons were lit across the galaxy. Every allied world observed 1 minute of silence. No speeches, no music, only remembrance. Humanity had once again paid the greatest price so that others could survive. Returning home, weeks later, the UES Horizon returned to Earth. As the ship entered orbit, millions of people gathered outside cities, on rooftops, and along coastlines. No one cheered. Instead, they looked toward the stars with quiet respect. Captain Maya Reynolds stepped off the ship alongside Dr. Ethan Carter. They had left Earth searching for answers. They had returned carrying the greatest truth in galactic history. Humanity had never been ordinary, yet somehow knowing that made them feel even more responsible. The Galactic Assembly. 1 month later, representatives from every surviving civilization gathered on the rebuilt Galactic Council Station. Never before had so many species stood together in peace. At the center of the chamber stood Chancellor Vierek. His once proud ceremonial staff had been replaced by a simple wooden cane. The war had aged him. He looked toward the human delegation. Then, in front of every government in the galaxy, he bowed. Not out of fear, out of respect. Every delegate followed. One after another, thousands of leaders lowered their heads. For the first time in over 100,000 years, the galaxy honored its true founders. An unexpected offer. Vierek addressed the assembly. For countless generations, we searched for the first ones. We believed they abandoned us. We were wrong. He turned toward President Elena Torres. The Galactic Council unanimously offers humanity permanent leadership of the galaxy. A quiet murmur spread through the chamber. Every civilization expected the humans to accept. After all, they had built the ancient civilization. They possessed the legacy fleet. They had saved everyone. Who else deserved to lead? The room fell silent as Elena Torres approached the podium. She looked around at every face in the chamber. Then she smiled gently. Humanity's choice. We are honored by your trust. She paused. But our ancestors made one thing clear. They never created civilizations to rule them. They helped them become free. She looked toward the delegates. If humanity accepts absolute power today, then everything our ancestors sacrificed for would lose its meaning. The room remained completely silent. So we respectfully decline. Several delegates looked stunned. Elena continued. We don't want subjects. We want neighbors. We don't want an empire. We want a partnership. Every civilization deserves its own voice. Every world deserves its own future. The assembly erupted into applause, not because humanity had won the war, but because they had refused the throne. The legacy fleet. Attention soon turned to the ancient creator fleet. 8 million warships still waited across the galaxy, the most powerful military force ever assembled. Many feared what humanity would do with such unimaginable power. Ethan Carter stepped forward. Our ancestors built these ships to defend life, not to dominate it. One by one, the Guardian dreadnoughts, Titan fortresses, and Sentinel carriers were reassigned. Some became disaster relief stations. Others were transformed into deep space research vessels. Several remained hidden, watching the borders of the galaxy in case the Watchers ever returned. The fleet would never again serve an empire. It would protect everyone. A final discovery. Months after the war, engineers rebuilding the ruins of Sanctuary World 7 made an astonishing discovery. Deep within the debris, they recovered a single intact data crystal. Its label read, "For Humanity's Future." Inside was Custodian Prime's final recording. The familiar AI appeared once more. "If you were watching this, then you survived." A gentle smile formed across its metallic face. "Then everything was worth it." Paused. "You often wondered why we called you creators. It was never because you built machines. It was never because you built cities. It was because you created hope. You gave strangers a chance to become friends. You chose compassion over conquest. You proved that true strength is measured not by the worlds you control, but by the lives you protect." The recording ended with one final sentence. "Take care of our galaxy." 50 years later, half a century passed. The galaxy had changed forever. Trade routes connected civilizations that had once been enemies. Joint academies welcomed students from hundreds of species. Ancient creator technologies were carefully studied, not as weapons but as tools for exploration, medicine, and science. Earth became a symbol of unity rather than power. Visitors from every corner of the galaxy came to walk its oceans, mountains, and cities. Not because it was the birthplace of the first ones, but because it was the home of the people who had twice saved the stars. The final scene. On a quiet evening, Dr. Ethan Carter, now an old man, stood at an observatory overlooking the night sky. Beside him stood a group of young cadets from different species. One child pointed toward the Milky Way. "Professor, were humans really the greatest civilization that ever existed?" Ethan smiled softly. He looked toward the stars his ancestors had once crossed. Then he answered, "No, we simply tried to be the kindest." The children looked confused. Ethan continued, "A civilization isn't remembered because of the wars it wins. It's remembered because of the future it leaves behind." Above them, the stars shone brighter than ever. Far beyond the edge of the galaxy, hidden in the endless darkness, the Watchers remained silent. They were still out there, waiting, but this time, the galaxy was no longer divided. It was united, and if darkness ever returned, it would not face one civilization. It would face all of them standing together. The end rocket,